So here I got the 5-minute candle day chart for IBIO for June 16th. And we're talking about it because it jumped 33% on a very high volume. So as we can see, it built support right here. What's that at? About 230, which it ultimately broke, and then tested the 200 SMA, which it bounced right off of, then ran all the way to 250 plus in after hours. A weird last 5-minute candle. I don't know what that's about. It's off 150,000 volume, so it's pretty kind of irrelevant, really. Wow, it was running on a lot more volume. So I actually ended up loading around 217, and I averaged down on the 200 SMA. I got a little trigger happy. I should have just waited right here, but I thought maybe it wouldn't hit, and sure enough, maybe you wouldn't get filled if you were one of the ones right on it. So sometimes you gotta scale in towards it if you really think it's gonna bounce. And I actually wasn't paying attention. I would have sold right here if I had the opportunity to, but I had traded all day and I fell asleep. So swinging this one, I wish I had taken my profits. This is kind of scary, but I think it's pretty irrelevant. It's probably shorts trying to cover the last before the weekend. But let's talk about my price targets. I mean, you can see there's a little top right here at 261. So my first price target is gonna be 250. Just off the psychological aspect of the 250. It's also worth noting that VWAP's around 240. So maybe it'd be smart to put your stop loss at 240 once it passes. And then I do the same at 250. So as soon as it breaks 250, I'm throwing that stop loss and minimizing any downside from there to maximize my upside, right? So 240, I'd set that stop loss. 250, I'd set it. At 270, I'd set it. I'd set it actually, wait up, 240, 250, 261, as we see here, 270, and then $3 is my final one. And let's look at a larger time frame. Here's a 14-day where I drew some things. So you see a clear uptrend here. And so we got a bull flag. It peaked up all the way to 288-ish, 284, above 280. So here's that 250 point I'm talking about. The 261 is right here. The 270 right here. And then finally the 3 would be the final one. But in between that, you can do it right here on the peak. So in between the 270 and the 3, I'm going to throw a stop loss around 280, 284, 280. I'm not going to let it go over 280 then fall on me. So 240, 250, 260, 270, 280, and then 3. It's going to be a little heavy at all those points, so it's worth putting your stop loss there or just taking profits and making sure it holds, not getting greedy. And as of support levels, I'm watching for that 220 to hold. We go back on the day, the 220. If it's above 220 in pre-market on Monday, I'm not going to let it fall under 220 on me. Underneath that, I'm going to be watching the outlets level 2. If I get stopped out at 220, I'll be watching for a bounce around 210, 212. And if that can't fall, I'm watching for a $2 test. And if that breaks, we got to go back to that 14. I'll be watching for a bounce off the 185 level. And if that can't hold, I'm watching for a load ultimately this is where you'd be loading for if you're trying to hold this long term. This is, for me, this just is a short term momentum swing, one day. But if you're trying to hold this, eventually you'd probably try to load this on this uptrend. It would be the right thing to do it, like 170-ish. Or eventually it will be maybe further, but maybe it will line up to this 180. So between this 175 and this 185 probably. But let's look even further back to get a I got the whole year right here on daily candles. So you can see a clear uptrend right here. Somewhat of a channel we've been in. And here we are. We broke out of it, and here we are breaking right down to the bottom. But that's according to that last goofy candle. So more I'd say up here. But it's worth noting, look, it's going to be heavy in these previous places I already talked about from this spike. Which let's talk about some of the catalysts and why this happened. So all the way in March 18th, they announced that they were going to be doing a COVID vaccine, and they're a candidate, right? So it instantly became a COVID play and got a lot of momentum. As you can see, I did a video actually on March 31st while it was $1.07, and I was watching for a push. I was watching for it to break the 110, 120 level and ultimately push to 150, 160. But I stuck with my plan. See, if it breaks under $1, everything changes and I'm selling. And as we look back, March 30th, that was around right here. And see, as soon as it breaks that $1, look how it gets ugly. So you would have been stuck in here for a month or so while it just kind of slowly formed an uptrend from the bottom. So it's been very profitable if you caught it at 84 cents and you held it for a while, but it's dangerous on these penny stocks. So you see it ultimately formed the bottom around 80 cents and then must have got more news over here and busted right back up, spiked to the 150, pulled back to this uptrend is formed and just slowly spiking and forming lower lows. So it's interesting, and if it could break over this point, it'll be interesting. But at the same time, let's look at the 90-day where I got everything really drawn out. Right here, I mean, if it breaks back into this channel, the uptrend is only at 150 here. So it's definitely a play where you want to use tight risk management. Let's go over some of the more of the fundamentals. So one of the things too is on June 17th they have recently announced the offering 45 million shares, they say. And if you look further into it, it's not too good. It's bigger than it sounds. Let me show you. Look, as of June 11, 2020, we had issued an astounding approximately 120 million shares of common stock. Right. And here they are on the 17th announcing that they're going to be doing up to 151 million shares as more fully described in the notes, assuming sales of all 45 million shares. So it's a game of dilution versus momentum. But then you got to look at the last 10Q, which was fortunately last month. They had 120 million shares, right, as of May 15th. So now you got the offering. Look at their it's almost like a joke if you look at their revenue on their last 10Q. Let me find it. Look at this, $96,000. 3 months ended in March of 31. What the hell? So that's not good. You're pretty much preying on this vaccine changing this company. But on a positive note, I gotta find this too. Somewhere in here they say they have enough money. They have $10 million in cash in there. They think they have enough money to fund the company till June 2021. So you catch this next bottom or in the low of this, maybe you could write it out, but I don't think this is an investment. I think this is merely just a momentum play. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to find that through all this right now, but it's also worth noting. So what else happened is what caused this recent spike after that first initial one a couple months ago was, first of all, they got selected by the IBM Watson Health for the use of IBM clinical development solution at no cost to help support clinical COVID vaccine candidates. So that was one thing. But then on top of that, this was the big thing. They got introduced to the Russell 2000 and the Russell 3000. So for a penny stock, that makes it sound really official. So people are thinking, wow, this is an official company. They're not going to let like a scam penny company into that. So that's bringing a lot of good sentiment. So here we go. Shares of IBIO rockets 33% on 64% on rocketed on 64%. But it also notes, look, IBIO's stock is soared 6-fold year to date, which is scary if you're falling in love with these pennies turned, over $1 into stocks. You got to remember where they came from and where they usually come back from. So it's an interesting play. I mean, let's look back at the whole year. And then when I go any farther than a year, I was looking for support and resistance levels, which don't really matter at that point. No one's going to be holding that bag for that long, I'd presume. And to put a real let me see, staple to that, look at this. They did do an offering June 11th, 2018. So this is all pre-adjusted to the offering. To the reverse split. My bad. So this is kind of irrelevant. No one would have bought here, held through the reverse split, and held this for 3 years. So once we break this that 3 level, it'll be a little bit at 310 and a little bit to 340. Then past that, this thing is going to be pretty open. But I'm not thinking it's going to necessarily go that far after this quick of a pull up. I'm thinking it might run in pre-market for a little bit, then ultimately die in morning panic, and then test that like $2 level. I'll try to get out on top in the morning and then reload around 2. And if that can't hold that 185 level or the 165, if that can't hold, we're gonna have to load at 140. Then the next bounce target would be right here about 112. Then I'm going off the $1 bounce from there, and I don't think it's going any lower than that for the short term. So that's all I gotta say on this one.